Hi there, how are you? Welcome along to the Digital Culture Ideas Show. This is the show where we discuss the impact of technology on culture and people and how it's significantly shaping the way we think, interact, behave, and communicate. In short, this is a show about technology and people. On the show today, I have Christine Dormaar. She's the Global CIO of Tait Communications in Christchurch. Yes, that's right. Global CIO based out of Christchurch, my hometown. What I love about Christine is that she does what she'll say she'll do, and she does that with integrity and so much passion. She enjoys challenging the norm and working across business areas and really trying to deliver to the business the outcomes they require. Her experience is really vast. It spans lots of types with broad and balanced skill set covering most aspects of IT, management, and leadership. And this includes developing visions and strategy, as well as translating objectives into deliverable plans. She believes in clear leadership and actively supporting and enabling her team and those around her to achieve and excel. And she really enjoys what she does. Christine has long been a senior woman IT role model for me, and it was great fun chatting with her about leading IT, not as an IT manager, but as a business leader, and being curious into all the different departments and what they're trying to achieve out of their business. We also talk about the leadership role and the fact that that's actually just another role on the team. Just because you're leading a team doesn't put you in any kind of different position other than you're playing that role. And then we also discuss Tait Communications digital transformation and some of the learnings they've had from that, as well as a really good discussion about the future of work. I'd now like to welcome Christine Dormaar, the Global CIO for Tait Communications. Christine, how are you?
I'm very good, thanks, Hilary. All good.
Excellent. So thank you for coming on the show. Now, my husband works in tech as well, and he actually introduced me to you. It must have been 3 or 4 years ago. I was starting my first, IT leadership role at that stage, and you were so kind because I think I had about a dozen or so questions that I was kind of firing at you, and it was all about, how do you set an IT strategy, and what are the kind of different shapes of a team in terms of IT, and why would you do this shape over another? And so, frankly, you've always been like a role model in the senior IT space, which I've looked to, and I really appreciate that. I'm keen though to understand what was your leadership journey to where you are today, and did you have any particular role models that you look to?
Yeah, thanks, Hilary. Firstly, I'm very flattered that you think of me in that way. That's very flattering, so thank you very much. But I suppose I ended up in technology not by design. So I think many people of my era, that's probably true, where technology was something that was a backroom activity as well. But I ended up there a combination of circumstances and opportunity, and I had a genuine interest for all things technology. And I liked the idea of learning something that was new and interesting that not many people actually knew a whole lot about. So it was interest factor and skills and opportunity, all those things originally. So I sort of started my career with Datacom, actually, and also semi by accident, but I got into that straight after completing a non-IT study in Christchurch. So knew nothing about IT, but seemed like a good idea. I went into computer operations at that time, which is mainframe. So just learned everything there was about that. And talking about the leadership journey, I found that firstly, people in IT at that time certainly were all very introverted backroom people, and it was predominantly men. So I remember going to an event in Christchurch, one of the first events I went to as a little young person, and being in this room of like a few hundred people, and it was an IT thing, and I was the only female. There was nobody else in this room. And I remember thinking, oh, this is interesting. I thought, good odds. But then you look around and you go, no.
And that's not an uncommon experience, though,
No.
being the only one in the room sometimes.
Yeah, but it was interesting because so I've always worked in a male-dominated industry in IT, but also by accident in male-dominated industries and business, not just in IT. So it's sort of a double hit. So we might talk a bit about that a little later on. But interesting. So from the mainframe days, I suppose I moved into customer support and on-site engineering as part of that. And I moved very quickly into management from operations because I had, I'm sort of an extrovert by default, which is not your normal IT person, certainly then, but also I do have an alpha personality. So I need to control and manage what's around me, which by default means the people around me. So, and that's all very straightforward in that environment because typically there weren't really many leaders generally, and I'm not talking from a female perspective, but generally there were few people that would actually lead. So it was really easy for me to just fill that niche and actually just step up and do it by default and work as a team. So that sounds a bit domineering, but I don't mean it to be like that. It's just that you work as a team and you work to your strengths. So I have some strengths in some areas and other members of my team have strengths that fill the other areas. And as a whole, we provide a service or a solution or whatever that happens to be. So I think that's probably true all the way through my career and technology in general. We all have something to bring to the table.
Absolutely. So, and actually one of my managers who gave me my shot in IT, that's exactly what he said. He's like, I'm just a member of the team as well. It just happens that my role is to manage the team. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I can completely relate to that. I've just got a wee follow-up question. You keep saying accidentally. What do you mean by accidentally? As in opportunities came to you, or what does that mean, accidentally?
Well, I suppose my first role out of study was not in IT, working for Datacom, and I was lucky in that regard that I started working for an IT company because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So as you've gone through schooling, and that's another one of my areas of interest, there was never good career advice. And the career advice needs to start when you're 10 and 12. It doesn't start when you're 15 and 18.
True. Yeah.
And I don't feel that we focus, my experience is that we don't have any focus on careers other than traditional careers at that age. And you'd leave it too late. And you don't know what you're interested in, you don't know what your skills are, you have no idea. You know, if you're 15 and you know what you want to do, you're the lucky few. You know, I feel very passionately about education at a young age and exposure to jobs that are out there, because it's not about the study, it's about I want to be this, you know, geoscientist or, you know, geochemist, or do this awesome work in virology or whatever it happens to be. But in order to get there, you need all these steps. But if you know that that's what you're aiming for, you can actually work towards that end goal. So I don't think we portray it or communicate it well to young people generally. Anyway, that's my little side note.
No, I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you think of you know, what do you think has been some of the keys to your success and your stamina in the tech industry as well?
Yeah, I think so. I've sort of moved through leadership into different businesses that would force me to grow for whatever reason, and I've been lucky enough to choose what I was doing at the time. So, which is always very fortunate. But moving through different industries and what they did, I think initially of all the skills that I was key to my success very early on, it was the ability to touch type. And I know that sounds like such a minor thing, but certainly in operations and IT, if you can touch type really quickly, you get your work done really quickly compared to others that can't type. So actually your output is actually much increased. And I still find that somewhat today. Yeah. So it's one of those core skills that I don't think gets enough credit for productivity.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's very true. My father was a doctor, and I still remember him kind of typing with his fingers into the system that Yeah,
Yeah.
and it just meant he also went to university and kind of never left. He did degree after degree after
Yeah.
degree, and my mum had to like type for him his essays because so it is such a key skill. And you're right, it's
Yeah.
probably one of those kind of unthought of things as well. So yeah.
Yeah. But I think general skills, I think being open and interested in what's going on around you. So I think being informed and seeing in the business what's actually happening and asking questions, so and not being intimidated by others around you and stepping up and speaking out and asking and engaging with people and communicating beyond your hierarchy as well, and being willing to work as a team and find a solution. And it's not about power or anything else, it's actually about finding and discussing and finding the right thing. So I think a lot of my skills or success is due to perseverance and persistence, but also good listening skills as well. I think being able to listen to people, really listen to people and what they're saying, because typically what they will talk to you about is not their actual question or issue. It's actually, they skirt around it. They don't actually get to the point. So you have to sort of interpret what you think that they're after, and don't take questions or discussions necessarily at face value. So I
Yes.
think your ability to do that and make that assessment while you're listening and coming up with solutions is actually key to good outcomes.
Absolutely. And I'm kind of laughing inside because that was one of my light bulb moments as well. So and I've often, well, not often, but occasionally I've talked about IT's a bit like psychology or being a therapist, because
Yeah,
people come to you and they're like,
yeah,
oh, I think I need this or this app, or this isn't working, and then it's very much around digging around the subject. Oh, so why do you think you need that? What kind of outcome are you trying to produce? How do you feel about that?
yeah.
um,
Well, I've got a little story for you actually. When I
Great.
was doing site engineering work, so again, a long time ago, doing site engineering, and I'd go out to customers that had problems. And firstly, if they logged a call, I've had another classic one, but this one in particular, I went out and she was complaining that she was having response problems and her computer wasn't working. And this is mainframe, so I went to the customer because I liked doing the field engineering because I liked people. So that
Yep.
made me quite successful. So I'd go out and I'd go and talk to her, and in 30 seconds, there's actually nothing wrong with her computer. There's something else going on in her life, right? And I remember saying, firstly, sympathising and saying, oh, yes, we'll take a look, and that's good. So it's the psychology of managing people and people's expectations, back to your point. But with her, I remember saying, yes, well, look, I'd love a cup of tea. Would you go and get me a cup of tea? And while she was out of the room, like I did check and there wasn't anything untoward. I actually cleaned her computer. So her screen and her keyboard were all nice and clean. I gave it a quick clean. And she came back with a cup of tea. I said, look, I found a couple of minor things that were a bit off, so they might make a difference. But, try it and let me see how you're going. And, oh, yes, it's much better now. And, the next day follow, oh, so much better. Thank you so much. Her problem was not her computer. It was something else in her life. That, so it's just that, making her feel that we're listening to her, yes, you do have a problem, but whether it's a computer one or not was actually, in that case, wasn't relevant. But, just doing those minor things, and it sounds like a bit of a cheat, but it was back to learning those psychology and leadership skills, just dealing with people and being able to assess what's going on and reacting appropriately to that has actually been
Should
quite key
not be
to my success.
underestimated. That's so
Yeah,
true. That's so true.
yeah,
And coming back to leadership now again, you talked about being the only female in the room at events, back in the day. And so what advice might you give an aspiring woman sort of looking to get into tech and into leadership
yeah.
roles?
Talk to people around you. Just because you're the only female in the room doesn't mean, firstly, they're more scared of you than you are of them, right? They are. They truly are. So I would definitely recommend going in and pushing into conversations and being heard and listening and chipping in and providing your view. and becoming part of that team, because essentially it's a team and they're all in their little niches, but you can push in and you can have your say, and you have something to add. There's always something that you have to add.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's been my experience as well. I mean, so there's these very, intelligent people in the IT space, and some of them can talk really confidently at you with these kind of big, loud voices, and you kind of go, "Oh, okay, maybe I'm not so sure." But actually, they're just, and you kind of take it as perhaps a knock to your own confidence, but actually they're just talking loud about something that they're passionate about. And so you kind of go, "Oh, okay, yeah, no, I can, be part of this conversation as well." That's, yeah, totally okay.
I also think you need to be mindful when people are talking in that way to assess whether they're doing it because they're passionate or whether they're doing it to dominate the conversation and dominate you. So I think you also need to assess whether that's appropriate or not.
Yeah, because it could be either. Yeah, no,
it can be either.
Right.
And watch out for use of acronyms. When people start chipping in with lots of acronyms and in things to your business, especially if you're new in a business, you don't know these things. Just ask, because there's no stupid question, and it's your learning journey as well. So just ask, yeah.
Absolutely. So what I find really interesting about Tait Communications, who you work for, is it feels very similar to Cordia, where I work as the Chief Information Security Officer. So we're both in that really mission critical game. And so can you tell me a bit about Tait's environment and some of the challenges that you've had to manage as a CIO, as a global CIO in that space?
Yeah, so I'd say firstly, Tait's been around for 50 years. So that's quite a long time in the technology space. And essentially it's a business that's moved into technology. And I always see it as an IT business in disguise, really. But we are an IT business that provide communication solutions. And that's for some of our teams, it's a challenge to see that they're moving into the IT space as opposed to the radio space.
Okay.
So I think that as a business, we're really super interesting. We design and manufacture radio solutions. So we have around 150 network, hardware and software engineers just working on our products, as well as we do our own manufacturing here in Christchurch. So we have the full range of people and our corporate services. We're also a global business, so we have offices all over the world with our sales and support teams, engineering support teams, and that all comes with its own challenges. I suppose one of our, like any business, when we've got that many engineers in the business, being an internal IT team to essentially an IT business is an added challenge. It is its own challenge because you want to put controls and management around it. Well, that stuff doesn't work with these people. It just doesn't. There's no such thing within reason of standardization. We have at our heart, we have an open source ethos. So most of our systems are all open source, and our products are all built on open source as well, open source operating systems and other things. So across that range, we also have, I would say most of our engineering teams have open source desktops for their day-to-day working. So there's not a whole lot of Microsoft in the environment. So we have very mixed environment and nothing standard. We also have, Tait is our products, for critical communications. Well, we provide solutions to critical businesses such as, police, ambulance, fire, utilities, transport agencies, airports, all sorts of range of customers. And they have critical need. So we also, those products, when they buy those, they expect them to last for a long time. They're not like a computer that you can expect to refresh every 3, 4, 5 years. No, we have solutions in place that are 20 years old, and we're still managing and supporting that, which means that in our engineering stack, we actually support builds that are 20 years old, and we have to patch and manage and keep those up to date and distribute those to our customer bases. So morphing into the IT space, that means we've got a huge amount of data and content that we need to manage and maintain and back up, and all the other challenges that come with that. let alone the information management side, which is an area that I want to focus on in the next couple of years. So we haven't really put structure around our information management. It's pretty much been engineering led, which is great, but we do need to change that. So I think that's a challenge for my team to focus on information management. So yeah, it's pretty interesting as a business. From the IT space, we've made a change to hybrid cloud as an environment. I'd say that's really good outcomes, but it comes at a cost when you're working at scale. And I think many people would have that experience that suddenly, it's a great idea until suddenly you're getting these, 5 or even 6-figure bills every month, and then you're reassessing whether it's really worth it. So we have still a challenge in that space to find the right mix of hybrid. I see that it will be hybrid, but I don't think it'll be a fully cloud strategy. It will retain hybrid for cost reasons predominantly.
Particularly in that mission critical space, I'm finding that too. Look, it's been a pretty awesome time to be in IT and digital transformation, and clearly there's been some really sad things with the pandemic and people's jobs and things like that. But if we think of the digital transformation side and just park that for now, what does Tait learn during COVID and that whole kind of process to get people online and remote?
Yeah, I think firstly we had a challenge. So we did some prep prior to the lockdown being announced. So I'll start with the IT view because there's some work there, and I'll move to the business view.
Okay,
so
great.
The IT view, we had a real challenge because our firewall, we had remote access, but we were limited to the number of concurrent sessions we could have on that particular firewall. So we looked at changing that and how we were going to manage that. And we have VPN networks to all our global sites as well that run on the same VPN. It wasn't fit for purpose. So we ended up finding a solution, and we were about to implement it, and then found that we couldn't have open source desktops. The VPN software wouldn't work on open source desktops, which meant our engineering teams wouldn't have been able to work. So we scrambled around, and this was about 2 weeks before lockdown. We thought, right, well, we need something else. So we quickly identified another product, and we've gone with an open VPN, open source product. So we went with that. We implemented 2-factor authentication for VPN at the same time. And just as they were announcing lockdown, I think it was the Thursday or Friday before, we started rolling out the new VPN. So, of course, there's nothing like a crisis or a deadline to force people into change. So, which was, from my perspective, a godsend, because it meant that we were able to implement that without significant challenge, and we could just roll it out and get it done without our 150, engineering staff all wanting to know the details of how it worked and, all the controls around it. Yeah. So, of course, we'll deal with that, but not on the day. So that was a huge effort of our team to get that up and running and rolled out. And so from day one of our lockdown, we did have all our staff working from home successfully. Obviously, our manufacturing, that wasn't the case, but they need to be on site. But everybody else pretty much were. And with our engineering teams, they had desktops mostly. So they worked from large desktops. So they didn't have the facility to have laptops. So we had to, on the Monday and Tuesday, I think, before lockdown, they were walking out the door with desktops, chairs, desks, literally desks were going out the door. We had so much gear going out the door, all our test racks and test systems. We were very fortunate that when we put the new VPN in place, we were able to put secure connectivity into our internal sandpit networks. And we have hundreds of these. That we have an extreme networking requirement. So they have never been available remotely from home. So that was a really big win for us as a team.
And such a change for those people too. If they've never been able to work from home before and now all of a sudden they can, that's really interesting. I wonder what that will mean for your workforce going forward.
So on the business aspect, I think one of the largest learnings as a business, putting aside all the COVID-related, processes, was the impact. Our engineering manager told me that our engineering teams were more effective and more productive working from home than they were from work. And they've never worked from home before. They always come to work and do their 9 hours or however long they're here. And I think that's due to the fact that they then had, at home, they had 24 hours to work. So they could pick and choose their time when inspiration struck within their day. So if they thought of something awesome at 10 o'clock at night, they could go and address it for an hour. And I actually think that contributed to the success of their productivity increase. And also the fact they weren't getting interruptions, of course. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so true. That is really interesting, isn't it? You're right. It is more like a 24-hour period, and then you fit your work in at the appropriate time, rather than the strict kind of 9 to 5 framework that we've just been drummed into us for so long.
Yeah.
And
So,
I had a wee question I was going to sneak in, Christine, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
I was just with those engineers, so they've been able to have more focus time. Have you thought about how innovation has been affected during that time? Because sometimes we need other people, to bounce things off and be more innovative. Sometimes it's that focus time where we get innovation. Have you thought about that in relation to that workforce?
Yeah, so that's another learning, is that firstly, having everybody work from home was great, but we actually needed to provide connectiveness, amongst the different teams and between the teams and as a business overall. So there were different layers of connectiveness, and within the teams, we already were Zoom users prior to the lockdown, so that was already in place. And we use Google, so we use Google tools like Google Hangouts, which is extremely effective for group chats and other things. And all those things together, and all our managers really putting structure around the day so that they had team catch-ups on a regular basis, and they kept that routine going and routine check-ins and other things. I think from the innovation side and keeping that up and running with those teams, that connectiveness actually assisted with that, but then they could go away and try it out and then come back and actually have a discussion around it. So, it was.
And do you think they'll keep those kind of regular catch-ups in some form or another going forward?
Yeah, I think most of our teams have relocated back to work now. So we've got, I'll just go back to your point around future of work at Tait. There will be some people, and there have been some people that say, actually, I want to work from home more regularly, but not all the time. So there have been a few people in that boat, and we already offered flexible working anyway. Our engineering teams, I'm expecting an increase of requests to be able to work from home more regularly, but I haven't seen any yet. We're just seeing more requests for some spare equipment to take home, but not hardware, not hardware, not computers as such, but monitors and peripherals. So, sorry, back to your question. Sorry.
Yeah, it is interesting to think how we take kind of the good things from lockdown in terms of, more focus time working from home, or we've found teams connecting better as well, because video conferencing is actually it's very inclusive. Everyone's got FaceTime, and I think it makes the meeting organizer work a bit harder to make sure everyone's kind of had their say and things like that as well. So likewise, we're thinking about what that might look like in the new kind of workplace, but trying to balance that as well with ensuring the culture is intact, and that you still get that kind of team connection and things like that as well.
Yeah, we found the Zoom, being on Zoom, and I like the gallery view so I can see everybody at once. And I found that exhausting, and I wasn't the only person that found it really tiring. And it's because you're giving it your full attention, and your visual as well as audio, everything's happening at the same time. And after, we had a lot of meetings, and more meetings like that than we would have otherwise, you might have otherwise done in person. And we all found it very exhausting. So towards the end of the lockdown, we're saying it's okay if you don't want your video on, we don't need to see you. It's all right if you want audio only, you can just focus on what's being spoken about. So everybody manages that in different ways, but I think everybody said that it was actually exhausting having lots of visual communication all the time. So what's acceptable? Yeah, what's acceptable for the meetings and how you behave in those meetings. Like you said, making sure everybody gets their say, and not to talk over people, and a whole range of etiquette that we hadn't really thought about before. So no, it was very good. It was good.
Yeah, definitely. And so what's next for you, Christine? What are you thinking about? What's next?
Okay, well, next for me, Hilary, I think I've got a priority here at Tait to look at our information management, and we have a good security team as well. And as most other businesses worldwide, the increase of security awareness, preparedness, planning, and tools is extremely high priority, not just for us internally, because being a manufacturer and a provider, we're potentially a target, but also for our customer and customer solutions that we have deployed. So I think our capability and maturity and security is a really high focus going forward, and it already is. We have ISO 27001 security certification in our managed services, and we're expanding that throughout the business. So it's a culture change for our business to think of security as, it's similarly, I've come from an industry and mining in a prior life where health and safety is everything. Health and safety is everything you breathe and eat and do. Health and safety is ingrained in you. And security needs to be viewed in a similar way. It's cultural, it's personal, it's what you do every day, and how you operate every day is security. So I think there's a very high focus within Tait to, that constant journey of improvement. And, all our threat actors are getting more and more sophisticated. So, we just need to be on top of that all the time. So information management, security, and improving our overall capabilities at Tait for internal systems as we work towards our own digital transformation. Yeah.
Yes, I completely agree. Obviously, security culture is one of my passion areas, but it's one of those things you can't take your foot off the pedal either. Even like Cordia has fantastic security in terms of we're mission critical, like yourselves. It's really important to us, but you still can't take your foot off the accelerator in terms of culture and those messages and just making sure it stays there. And health and safety is very similar as well. You'll never get to a point with health and safety where it's enough. And I think that's very similar with security as well. Particularly, like our organizations, that kind of best in breed security that we do for customers, we do internally as well. So it's a constant improvement cycle that kind of goes on there. So I completely understand.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me personally, personally, I've been thinking around, what other things I would like to do, and I would like to have some additional operational responsibilities at some point. IT's awesome and I love it for a whole range of reasons, but I always think of myself as a business person that does technology. So in my prior, and that gives you a different view. If you think of it that way, it means that you're actually trying to solve business problems, not putting technology to solve a problem that may or may not solve a business issue. So you're a business person with technology. And in my previous roles, I've had a range of different operational responsibilities, and that's really awesome to understand what happens in a business and what makes it tick. I think I've always been interested in board and governance, and I think there's a lot there, and it's reasonably topical with security, but also around information technology and how that can assist, and also some good risk management background. So I think that's something that I want to think about pursuing in the future as well. So yeah, lots of good opportunities.
You'd be great at that too. I like you're not your traditional CIOs as I see it, because some of the comments you've just made, about being curious within all areas of the business, not just the kind of IT stack. And that's what Gartner and everyone talks about when they're talking about digital transformation and digital leaders and things like that. So you've obviously gotten to that point actually quite early on in your career. I think that would be a really great spot for you as well. And Christine, if people want to learn more about you, or how best to contact you, where would you point them towards?
Sure, look me up on LinkedIn. So look at my account. It's Christine Dormaar on LinkedIn. Or if you're feeling inspired, you'd be welcome to email me, and my email address is christine.dormaar@tateradio.com. You're welcome to drop me a note, and I'll see if I get back to you.
Oh, fantastic.
I would get back to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Christine. It's been awesome to have you on the show today and hear your leadership journey and some of the digital transformation you've done at Tait and some of the learnings from the kind of experience we've been through as well. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day.
Oh, thank you, Hilary. I really appreciate the opportunity to have a chat and share some of those ideas. I think that's a really valuable program. So well done.